Welcome to Startups. I'm your host, Aiden Spark. Today on Startups, ever wondered how close a billionaire came to losing everything, not in a boardroom, but swallowed by the unforgiving Atlantic? Today, we unearth the brutal lessons Richard Branson learned when his ambition became a fight for survival, revealing how his near-death experience shaped his boldest ventures. The Atlantic Ocean roared beneath me, its dark waters ready to swallow what remained of my shattered hot air balloon. As I clung to the wreckage, the bitter cold seeping into my bones, a thought struck me with the force of each crashing wave. How had I, Richard Branson, the supposed master of calculated risks, ended up facing death in the middle of nowhere? The answer, I realized, lay not in my successes, but in my lifelong dance with disaster. You know that feeling when the world seems designed for everyone but you? That was my childhood. The boarding school halls echoed with snickers as I struggled to read the simplest sentences. Dyslexia wasn't just a learning disability. It was a daily reminder that I didn't fit into their neat little boxes. Teachers called me lazy, classmates called me stupid. But what they saw as broken, I would later recognize as my greatest gift. At 16, I sat in the headmaster's office, hearing those familiar words, "You'll never amount to anything, Branson." I left school that day not as a failure, but as someone who had nothing left to lose. When you've hit bottom, every direction is up. My first venture wasn't born in a boardroom. It was conceived in a phone booth where I sweet-talked advertisers into supporting a magazine that didn't yet exist. Student Magazine emerged from pure desperation to prove my worth. Working from a basement, surrounded by unpaid bills and half-eaten sandwiches, I discovered something powerful. My inability to read traditional business plans meant I had to trust my instincts and actually talk to people. The phone booth became my classroom. Each call taught me more about human psychology than any textbook could. When you can't rely on written words, you learn to read people instead. Every no pushed me to refine my pitch, to connect more deeply with the person on the other end of the line. Virgin Records started because I couldn't stand how the music industry treated artists. While other executives sat in their towers, I spent nights in dingy clubs, listening to raw talent that the mainstream wouldn't touch. Signing the Sex Pistols wasn't just controversial, it was considered commercial suicide. But when you've grown up being told you're wrong about everything, going against the grain feels natural. The industry giants laughed at our makeshift recording studio in an old church. They stopped laughing when we started producing hit after hit, but success brought its own challenges. Each victory seemed to attract bigger, more powerful opponents. The higher we climbed, the harder they tried to knock us down. The idea for Virgin Atlantic was born from pure frustration. Stranded in Puerto Rico with a plane full of canceled passengers, I didn't see a problem. I chartered a plane, borrowed a blackboard, and wrote, "Virgin Airways, $39 to the British Virgin Islands." Within hours, the seats were filled. Sometimes the best business decisions come from solving your own problems. But entering the airline industry wasn't just ambitious, it was war. British Airways launched their Dirty Tricks campaign, spreading false rumors, stealing our confidential data, and even hacking our systems. They thought they could crush us with their size. What they didn't understand was that every attack made our resolve stronger. If you're enjoying Startups, please like, subscribe, and scan the QR code for our free 7-day email course, Become an Innovation Engine. Steal exact frameworks of billion-dollar breakthroughs like Netflix and Tesla. Now, back to the episode. Then came the moment that nearly broke me. To keep Virgin Atlantic flying, I had to sell Virgin Records. Imagine having to choose between your children. The day I signed those papers, tears streamed down my face. The company I had built from scratch, the one that had given unknown artists their voice, was gone. But sometimes survival means letting go of what you love to protect what you believe in. The media painted it as a business decision. They didn't see me sitting alone in my office that night, surrounded by old album covers and memories, questioning everything. But that's the thing about true passion, it demands sacrifice. You can't just talk about following your dreams. Sometimes you have to bleed for them. Which brings us back to that balloon, floating somewhere between life and death above the Atlantic. People often ask why I take such risks. They see the adventures, the balloon attempts, the kitesurfing records, the space travel dreams as publicity stunts. But they're missing the point entirely. These weren't stunts, they were reminders. Each time I faced death, I felt more alive. Each brush with disaster taught me that our limits are self-imposed. The same instincts that helped me survive in business were the ones keeping me alive in that ocean. When you've faced your mortality, board meetings don't seem so scary anymore. Here's what I've learned from my dance with disaster. Success isn't about avoiding failure. It's about understanding that failure is the choreography of achievement. Every setback, every humiliation, every near-death experience has taught me more than any triumph. So here's my challenge to you. Look at what scares you most. That project you've been putting off, that leap you're afraid to take, that change you've been avoiding. Now ask yourself, what's the real risk? Not taking action and living with regret, or taking action and possibly failing. Remember, I'm not suggesting you jump into an ocean or start an airline, but I am asking you to recognize that your greatest growth will come from embracing your fears, not avoiding them. Your dyslexia might be your superpower, your setback might be your setup, your disaster might be your destiny. Because in the end, life isn't about surviving the storm, it's about learning to dance in the rain. And sometimes, just sometimes, those who dance the wildest create the most beautiful footprints for others to follow. The ocean had always been a mirror to my ambitions. Today, it remains a teacher of my greatest lesson. The only true failure is the failure to try. Now, what will you try today? On the next episode of Startups, Richard Branson taught us that risk isn't just about leaping. It's about seeing opportunities others miss and building empires where others see only obstacles. But what happens when taking a risk involves something far more personal, something that touches the very core of our well-being? Have you ever wondered if true innovation lies not just in business, but in revolutionizing how we heal? Next time, we'll explore the story of a lawyer who walked away from a successful career to dive headfirst into the uncharted waters of psychedelic therapy. Prepare to witness how one person's curiosity and empathy ignited a mental health revolution, transforming the way we approach healing the mind. It's a story you absolutely can't afford to miss. Next week, we're diving deep into psychedelic therapy startups and how these companies are changing the lives of people around the world. Please like, subscribe, and scan the QR code or follow the pinned link to get our free 7-day email course. Become an innovation engine. 7 days, $7 billion frameworks. Transform from idea person to startup innovator by learning the exact playbooks that built Netflix, Tesla, and SpaceX. Click the video that just popped up to watch the next one in this series. Or for episode summaries, behind-the-scenes info, and more, go to daily8.com/su. Thanks for watching.